I am jumping way out of my comfort zone right now, coming on video and talking about just what I'm feeling over the last few days. Normally, I've gotten a little bit more comfortable talking audio and recording myself just an audio version, and that seems to work for me. But I wanted to come on and actually step out of my comfort zone a little bit and kind of practice what I'm gonna preach, because this is not something that I'm comfortable doing. I don't like being on video. I don't like seeing my lovely gray hairs and my, all the things that we like to judge ourselves on. I don't love it, but it is what it is. Aging is much better than the alternative. And so I wanted to share what I'm gonna share today, but I also wanted to do it in a way that is really uncomfortable for me, because I want to show that we can do really hard things even when we really, really don't want to, even when it terrifies us to even think about doing it. And I can tell you right now, it terrifies me to even think about putting this out into the public, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I wanted to come on and talk about obviously what we have been talking about collectively, globally for the last few days. And I'm doing this because I feel compelled to. And I have always been somebody, as many of you know, that has shared and taught and tried to be a leader in some ways. I did that through some of the hardest periods of my life consistently, and I am really proud of that. And it is something that it's something that I planted the seed many years ago, and now I'm turning it into something. But I definitely have found myself go quiet over the last little while. And when I was talking to Scott about that a couple days ago, after the death of Charlie Kirk, and I said, I don't really know why. I don't know when I started being so quiet, and when I stopped sharing what I believe in and talking about things that are controversial, and why did I start doing that? And his response pretty affirmatively and confidently was, you stopped when you started your program at school. And I think he's right. I think in many ways he is right. And I think the reason that is because I started down the path in a profession that made me feel like I had to be a certain way, think a certain way, present a certain way, share a certain way. And if it didn't fit inside of that mold that's been created, then there's this fear of being canceled or being found out or whatever, all of these things. And that really kind of started right from day one of my program, I'm not gonna lie. And so I'm not here to bash universities or my master's program or anything, the people in it or the professors. That's not my intention. That's not even, I don't even have things to say necessarily about that. I mean, I have things to say about it, but I haven't even really reflected on what all of that meant for me and what that taught me and the fears that kind of developed inside of me. But one of them definitely was, I need to just be quiet. If I believe something that is contrary to others, if it goes against kind of the mainstream narrative that's going around, I need to just be quiet. Because if I'm not quiet, then I could be found out, canceled, written up, whatever. I don't even know what that process looks like. And quite honestly, if me sharing some of this stuff, what I've shared thus far in the last few days, what I'm going to share today, if the result of it is going to be that somebody is going to try to accuse me of not being, I don't even know if politically correct is the right word. I don't know. But if it's something where it's like, now my ability to do my job is being threatened because of what I'm saying today, then I don't want this role anyway. You know, if I can't be in this profession that I believe in and that I love, I don't believe in all of it, but I believe in a lot of it, and I believe in the ability to hold space for people who are hurting and who need guidance, and I know that I'm good at it. I'm not everybody's therapist, I'm not, but I know that the ones that I am for feel it almost immediately, and I feel it, you know, having them in my space as well. And I don't want to lose that, but I also don't want to be quiet anymore. And I want to be able to share and speak what I believe and what my truths are. And I want to have those conversations with people. And that was really the whole reason why I decided to start my podcast, which I've only put out like 5 episodes on, because every time I always wanted the podcast to be authentic, and I didn't want to have like a schedule and like, you know, I'm going to talk about this and this and in this order and whatever. I wanted it to be, these are the things that I care about and I'm passionate about. These are the things that I question. I want to have conversations with people to learn, but all of the things that came to me to want to share and talk about and learn and have conversations about immediately made me fearful that if I go out and talk about this, am I going to get into trouble? Am I going to be accused of overstepping my ethical boundaries in my role as a counselor? I really had this very deep fear of what would happen, because at the end of the day, I have bills that need to be paid. And it's my livelihood. And so I just found myself going quiet. I just didn't even let myself go there, because it was just easier to just kind of stay under the radar. But in doing that, I have found myself feeling really just disjointed, and like there's something missing. There's a lot missing. I've had these books that are basically like, they're done, really. There's 2 of them. One of them is really just a compilation of my writings and blogs from my grief journey that many of you have already read, but I've just kind of added to it a little bit and sort of tied a nice little bow around it with some reflections. And then there's another one that really is just like my journey of my 30s. They started out horrific with the death of my fiance, and then, you know, here I am approaching my 40th birthday. And so this second book is really just what that whole process has looked like. And I've had these 2 pieces of work just kind of just sitting there, and my dad keeps asking me, like, when are these things going to get published? Like, what do you need to get these out there? And like, I'm not going to lie, he said, like, do you need money? Like, what do you need to get them out there? And the thing is, it's not about that. It's not about the money. It's not about the process. I'll do the work. I'm not afraid to do the work to get them out there. I'm not afraid of like the money, whatever, but it's not about that. It's about, this is me. This is my beliefs. This is my journey. This is my livelihood. And I just haven't felt safe enough to put it out there yet, because let's face it, we are living in this world where you just can't be who you are, think what you think, believe what you believe, without having to worry about people coming down on you like you're some kind of a monster because you believe something different than them. And I don't, and this is why I think when people sit down and you know, you're seeing this all over online right now, people are like, why did the assassination of Charlie Kirk hit me so hard? Why is this happening to me? Why do I feel so impacted by this when I've never felt that for any other thing before, or any other person before who I don't know? And I think the reason that is because I think people really felt like they knew him. Like, they knew him. And the reason that is because he showed up. He showed up in who he was. He stood by his truth. He stood by his beliefs, by his faith. And he didn't waver from that ever. It didn't matter who was watching, who was around, who was on the microphone. He didn't waver from that. And so we all felt like we know this person because he is showing us who he is and we know him. And so then therefore we can decide how we feel about him and his beliefs and whatever, because he's showing us. And I'm learning over the last few days that I was not the only person that spent hours upon hours upon hours upon hours watching him, learning from him, listening to him. And not just him, but the people that he was speaking to as well. He gave so many people the platform and the opportunity to speak. And I learned from them too. And I think that's why this is hitting us all so hard, because we're realizing here's a person who created this platform that is like no other. Like, where else can you go where everybody has an opportunity to speak and share their opinions and their beliefs? And really, I think the ultimate goal that Charlie Kirk had often was, one, to speak his truth, and two, to give other people the opportunity to speak theirs. And he really would often challenge people, like, prove me wrong. Like, come up here, tell me what you believe, and prove me wrong. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, prove me wrong. And I'm sorry, but I spent a lot of time watching these debates, and I never saw anybody prove him wrong. And they had the opportunity to, but they couldn't. And so then that made me kind of turn inward and think, okay, even though there's a lot of things that Charlie Kirk says or believes that I don't necessarily agree with, I had to turn inward and ask myself, why don't you agree with that? Why don't you? And I had to do a lot of reflection on that. And I spent a lot of time reflecting on it. And then I would go to my husband and be like, what do you think? This is the thing I heard today. And then I would give him the opportunity to share his thoughts on it too. And I think a lot of people were doing that. And if you have to ask me why I think people were turning to Charlie Kirk and his debates and his whole Turning Point USA platform, I think it's because people are watching our world just kind of go down this, and I shouldn't say our world, like specifically North America, we're just like going down this path that I think many of us are watching the trajectory of our society and people, and it's scaring us. It's really like deeply scaring us. And it's scaring me, not just for myself, but for my children. And so I think many of us are trying to find our own truth, and we're trying to figure out, what do I even believe and why, and what do I want to get back to? Because it seems we're just like, there's so much hate and division, and this can't be the goal. Like, I don't believe that our society is supposed to, I think we're just moving away from what's important, and there's just so much division and hate and just lack of critical thinking for one, but also I think the more that social media becomes a thing and technology becomes a thing, we're just losing that ability to communicate with people on like a human level, because we just turn to, Facebook comments, or I guess Instagram, I don't even, TikTok maybe. And we don't even have these like intimate conversations with each other anymore. And so when somebody tries, people don't know how to respond. Like if somebody disagrees with you, you don't even know how to respond, because you're not even used to communicating with people on that level anymore, because we just don't. We just text and we turn to the internet for things and for things to form our opinions instead of having conversations. So I think a lot of people were turning to him for that, and not just for him, because yes, like there's a lot of people who are saying, I didn't agree with everything he said, but I appreciated him, and his ability to just like create that space where people could come and talk. It was really, it was refreshing to see. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from other people. And it was helping me form my views and my opinions and what I believe. And now with what's happened, it's kind of like, where do we go from here? What happens now? And I'm seeing a lot of people who are kind of shook by this, and a lot of people are questioning their own beliefs and their own faith and what they need to do next. And I'm hearing a lot of people saying, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm going to start paying a little bit more attention to my own faith and my own beliefs and my own relationship with God, and how I show up in the world. And I'm not going to do that quietly anymore. And that's kind of how I feel. I feel like we have to be louder and we have to do it in a way that kind of carries on the approach that Charlie Kirk took, and that was giving people the opportunity to share and to speak in a safe, we thought it was safe, but in a way where you can talk and have yourself be heard. But then when you're done, you need to sit down and you need to close your mouth and hear the other side. And we have to let each side speak. And I can tell you right now that I can wholeheartedly disagree with you on every level. We can sit down and we can have a conversation, and our viewpoints can be completely opposite, polar opposite. And I know that I can still sit there and give you my attention and compassion and time to give you the opportunity to help me understand what your viewpoint is. If you're not willing to give me that same time and that same opportunity, and you're not willing to ask me questions to find out how I've come to my own beliefs and my own conclusions, if you're not willing to just shut up for a minute so that I can talk, I don't want to have a conversation with you. But if you are, then we need to do that. And we need to agree that at the end of it, if we still disagree completely, then that's okay. And we can carry on in our own ways and try to make the world a better place together in our own ways. And maybe at some point we'll come together again. I don't know. But I'm tired of people thinking that they can form an opinion or a belief based on tiny little clips that they see on the internet with zero context, or quotes that they see on the internet with zero context. If you don't spend the time learning and trying to, I saw somebody post this on Instagram yesterday, I think, and she was actually showing a video. And so I'm going to say a word that is going to maybe give somebody a strong emotional response, but hear me out. She was sharing a video of Charlie Kirk really getting passionate about who he was. And, I can't exactly remember what he was saying, but all of a sudden in the video, you hear him say, chink. And we all know that that is a derogatory term. But when you actually look at this, so this person who shared it on Instagram went a little further. Instead of looking at that and saying, oh my, what a racist bigot, she had a very strong emotional response to what she saw. And as a result, she decided, I gotta dig a little deeper, and I need to see if there's more context to this. And so she did that, and she realized that the person that he was passionately talking to, his name, I should have checked this before I came on here, but his name was Cenk. And I think the spelling of his name is Chenk. I'm going to have to look that up and just add it here. But that was his name. And I know who the guy is because I've seen him on YouTube videos and different things. And that's who he was talking to and having a debate and an argument with. He wasn't saying a racial thing at all. He was talking to somebody, and that was his name. And I'll try to bring it up and share it so you can see what I'm talking about. But this is what I mean. Like, you can't believe every single thing that you see and hear and watch without getting the full context. And this is something that I'm so passionate about because I have 4 kids in my home that are growing up in this world of, we don't know what the hell is real anymore. We look at it and we're like, is that real? Is that AI? We don't know. You can create anything now. We have no idea what's real, where it's coming from, who the source is, and people don't go beyond that. They just see it and then they just form an opinion. And they don't take any time to try to figure out what that context is. And so now you see people sharing all of these quotes of Charlie Kirk trying to just destroy his character and who he was as a person. And I don't care if you like him. You don't have to. You also don't have to agree with him. You also don't have to be sad that he's dead. You don't have to mourn him. You don't have to do any of that. But what you can't do is celebrate this because of something that you think you know, but guaranteed, based on what I'm seeing, it's a lot of people sharing little bits and pieces of that man's life and his beliefs and his words, and they're not sharing the whole context. So they're taking out the little piece that fits their narrative and their belief, and they're sharing that to tarnish who he was as a human being. And I'm not okay with that. I will never be okay with that. You are celebrating someone who is a husband, a father, a son, a friend, a mentor. You're celebrating a vicious, brutal assassination of this person. And if that is who you are, you need to look inward and ask yourself, how am I doing this? You don't have to mourn him. Let me be clear. You do not have to mourn him or even be sad. But to celebrate this is sickening. It is truly sickening. And if you want to do that behind closed doors, I can't tell you not to do something. You have a right to do whatever you want to do. But to celebrate it, it really scares me because what I'm worried it's going to do is people are going to see that celebration and they're going to, especially kids and youth and young adolescents whose minds are so malleable, they're going to see these celebrations and you know what the message to them is going to be? It's going to be this. If you don't like someone or they have a different opinion than you or they hurt your feelings, then you can go and you can shoot him in the neck. You can kill him. You can murder him. That is not a message we should be celebrating or trying to get out, because what are people seeing? It really legitimately scares me, truly. It scares me that is a message that's getting put out there, that here's a guy who believes something different than others, and it's great that he's dead. I even worry in saying that somebody's going to take this and like clip out those parts, because who knows? You just don't even know anymore. So I just feel like, we're just living in this world where when you see something, you have to go a little bit deeper. And if there's one thing that you take from this, it's that, you know what, if I see something, especially if it gives me a really strong emotional response, you need to dig deeper. And maybe you'll get confirmation that what you just saw and heard or read is true. Okay, then reflect on that. But don't form an opinion or a belief or a judgment of someone until you've taken the time to find out more. And this is just such a basic human thing. Like Scott and I especially, I can't speak for other people, but like for us ourselves, we deal with this in our lives constantly. Like we have people in our world who are judging us. They're judging us all the time, all the time. We are involved in communities, sports. Every year it's kind of this like, you know, because of who we are in our family dynamic. Every year we're showing up at a sports event, a new team, and we have to go through the same process of allowing these people to get to know us for who we are really, like really, really. And we just hope and we pray every year that they're gonna do that. They're gonna make the effort to do that, because we know that our character is being tarnished a lot behind our backs for things that it's just completely out of our control. And that's something that we've had to learn to live with and to grapple with. And it hurts. It really hurts sometimes. And it's really, really hard to manage, because I promise you, Scott and I are really good people and we genuinely give a shit about all people, even the ones that hurt us. But we have to constantly just sort of hope and pray that people are going to form their judgments and their beliefs about who we are based on getting to know us themselves, instead of basing those judgments and beliefs on things that they think they know or that they've been told. And so it's just like and I know lots of people are experiencing that and dealing with that in their own lives. So it's just such an important lesson to remember that if you are going to form a belief or an opinion, what are you forming that belief and opinion on? You have to really ask yourself that. You have to. And we all judge. We have to judge. Anybody who says I don't judge people, they're lying, because there is we have to judge people. We have to observe and judge people, because from an evolutionary perspective, that's what kept us alive. We had to form those judgments. Are they safe or not safe? Period. But it needs to go beyond that. You know, like you can judge people for that sort of safety piece, but then you have to use some critical thinking and just some like, okay, I'm going to actually get to know these people and see how they make me feel. And, you know, are we, whatever, like it has to be deeper than just, well, this is what I heard or what I think I know. And so therefore this is what I'm going to conclude. Long rant. My point of it is, you can't believe everything that you see on the internet, everything that you're told by someone. You can't just stop there. You have to dig a little bit deeper, and you have to find your own truth. And that's not going to be the same as their truth or my truth. I think the point of Charlie Kirk is that he was trying to find common ground. I think that was his ultimate goal, was to try to help everybody kind of come back to, you know, just these main fundamentals of just being humans and like caring for people and what we're here for and our purpose. And yeah, I don't know where this is going to go from here. And I fear it a little bit. It makes me a little scared, because if this can happen to him, then who's next is kind of my fear. And I don't agree with everything that he believed, but I agree with a lot of what he believed. And his his viewpoints on a lot of different controversial topics. I agreed with him. Not always in the exact same way, but there were a lot of things that I definitely wholeheartedly believed and agreed with. I always find myself kind of grappling with this. I want to teach my kids to stand up for what they believe in and stand up for themselves and for other people, while at the same time, I fear for them if they do that. And so another part of me wants me to just tell them to be quiet and keep their mouth shut, which I know that is wrong. Yeah. I guess the point of this is that we're kind of at this weird place in society. I don't know which direction it's going to go, and I have to just hope and pray that something's going to come from this. I don't think, as much as I hate that this has happened, I believe that it had to in some ways, and I think there's going to be a lot of things that come from this. And I hope a lot of them are good, and I hope a lot of people's hearts and minds have been shifted because of this. And I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen to Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, speak yesterday. It broke my heart on so many levels. One, just the whole magnitude of what happened to her husband, the fact that she was there and witnessed it with her young children, but also just like this other level of, I know what it's like to go to bed at night without your person and wake up the next morning with this horror that they're gone. And the way in which her husband was taken from her is just, I know I've experienced the loss of my spouse, and there are many similarities for everybody who have to move through that type of grief and who heal from it. But I don't know how she grapples with what she saw and what happened to him. I don't know. I need to just become better at praying, because all I can do is just pray for her. But when I heard her speak, I just thought, man, she's going to be a force, and I'm here for it, and I can't wait to see what she does from this. I hate that she is going to have to go through this journey of grief, and I don't know what that's going to look like with her. And in some selfish ways, I kind of hope she shares it a little bit, because I learned from that. But I can't imagine what her journey is going to look like based on just the magnitude of this. And I see videos of her. There was a video going around, which again, I don't know if it's AI, if it's real or what, but it's a video of her next to his casket, and you don't see his face or his body, but you can see his hands, and she's holding his hands, and she's just telling him that she loves him, and that she loves him, and she's speaking to God, and she's just holding his hands, and she's just crying. And I can't speak to this type of experience, because this wasn't Nick's story. This isn't what happened to him. His was very different. I got a lot of comfort knowing that he passed away in a beautiful bed of snow in the mountains. And that brings, it took me a long time to get to that comfort. There was a lot of nightmares and things that came from that, him being in an avalanche. But I eventually found comfort in the way that he died and where he was. I don't know how she ever gets to that, but watching her with his hands, and it just takes me back to that place of being there too with Nick, and just seeing his lifeless body and his cold hands and the makeup that they have to, and it's just the worst. It's truly, if you haven't been there, it is just the absolute worst thing to see your person laying there lifeless. And I could see Charlie Kirk's hands, and they looked a lot like what Nick's looked like too. And I remember doing the same thing, and I remember sitting next to Nick's casket and just holding his hand and fixing his hair and telling him how much I loved him and that I was gonna live for both of us. And so my point of this whole thing right now, I did not expect to cry. And I don't care, because I'm not afraid to cry in front of people. That doesn't bother me. But my point of this is, I remember being there with Nick in his lifeless body, promising him that I was going to live for both of us. And I feel like a big part of me has not, I haven't done that to the full extent that I should, because I've been scared. And so if there's one thing that I think is going to come from the loss of Charlie Kirk, is I think that a lot of people are going to wake up and they're going to stop being quiet. And if that means that I can't have the profession that I have, and I don't even know if that's what would happen, truly. I just have all of these fears that it could, because I've seen it happen to other people. I've seen a friend of mine who was the first young widow that I was introduced to have her nursing license stripped away from her during COVID because of a belief that she had. And luckily, years later, she has won that fight. But I have seen what happens to people in these regulated professions. Sorry. And I'm kind of at this point that if me speaking my truth and what I believe and what I care about is going to take away the profession that I'm in, then I guess that's just not the profession that I'm meant to be in, because I know that I have a voice. I always have. I have always, sorry, there's fucking flies everywhere. And I showered today, so I don't know what this is about, but I've always had a voice. I've always stood up for what I believe in. It hasn't always gone my way when I've done it, but I've done it anyway. But I haven't been doing that very much lately. Like I would say probably in the last few years, I just have not. I've been just flying under the radar and just keeping my mouth shut and just going through the motions, really, because I'm afraid. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't know what this is going to look like, but this is definitely a little fire under my ass. And yeah, I just hope that anybody that's feeling the same way that I am, that you really take the time to look inward and figure out, what is this supposed to mean, and what is this supposed to mean for you? Because I do believe wholeheartedly that this is a turning point for a lot of people. And I say that because I know that Charlie Kirk's platform was Turning Point USA. And yeah, I'm gonna try to just explore my faith more, because I have it. It's there. My God. I strongly believe in God. I always have. I don't always understand what he's trying to do, but I definitely know that I need to lean into that more. And I hope that you all do the same, because I think this is sort of where we're at, and this might be the whole point. So take it for what it is. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. I just needed to get some of this off my chest. And if you feel the same way I do, I know I've talked to a lot of people who do, and it's been great conversations, but if you want to reach out, I'm here for it.